computer. Oh, Maria, you are.
Can you see it? We're high tech here.
That's very, very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are so very happy to have you here. And we're going to begin. Rise up, Black and Brown Voices Speak Out. So I want to say that I'd like to begin actually our meeting with a very short contemplation. And it is a quote by Pema Chodron. We don't set out to save the world. We set out to wonder how other people are doing and reflect on how we affect other people's hearts. And so what I want to say before we start is that we are here with open hearts and open minds, and that we are about the business of change. We know it is hard. We know there are many miles to go, but here we are, a big giant Brady Bunch wanting to affect change. And so with all good thoughts and affirmations, we go into this hour together. So for us, this is a very special evening. It's conversation and presentations have been worked on for many days, weeks. I'd like to first thank the women of the collaboration team, leaders from iRise, Indivisible, Andover, the Newburyport Democratic City Committee, and the Women in Action Huddle of Greater Newburyport. Specifically, I want to thank Debbie Klein, Maria Chanin, Kath Mason, and Karen Trowbridge, with a special thank you to our absent techie, Julie Cook. I'd like to thank our beautiful presenters, the founders of Merrimack Valley Black and Brown Voices, Elizabeth Walther Grant, Mayara Reese, and Bria Gadsden, whose .org was created, quote, to support, connect, share resources, and create systemic change to eliminate prejudice and discrimination in these surrounding communities. Now, I know how busy the three of you are, especially this weekend, but I'm excited to share with our audience the organization that you have created, the affirmative steps that you seem to be taking all over the place, from protests and gatherings, which always seem to have an uplifting moment to them, if not the whole thing, to this ever-expanding directory that you have come out with of Black and Brown businesses in our area, which is so appreciated. I hope it grows and grows from 140 something to, hundreds, and to this great fair that you are conducting over the weekend on Sunday of Black and Brown owned businesses at a church in Andover. So I know you're on a big expansion curve. I thank you for your time. And I want to say that tonight we are asking for all donations to be made to their organization. It is www, and somebody is going to put this in the chat for us, mvbbvoices.org. So we really want to help support you. We want to help you with all of your programmings, and we ask people to be very generous tonight. So here's the format. Everybody's going to be muted because it's chaos, as you know, on Zoom meetings, only if you're not. And so we ask that you dialogue briskly and enthusiastically through the chat room. We have 3 people that will be monitoring that. And at the end, we will make sure that your questions are heard. So the first part of this is going to be some questions that we're just going to get to know you all better, the speakers. And so here we go. Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
So you were born in Miami and you grew up in Andover. You graduated from Andover High School. And by the way, these young women are not yet in their 30s. So let's put that into perspective. You graduated from Andover High School and it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to know is, there's a couple of questions and it's sort of all in a conversation. When did you move to the Northeast suburbs? Have you experienced discrimination in your high school years? Did you and your family talk about race at home? Has your family experienced prejudice in Andover, if they're with you in Andover? And mostly, when did your activism for an end to racism and discrimination begin? When did you become active? So I'm just gonna hand it to you and let you ramble on.
Sure. So I was born in Miami. I was adopted at 5 months old. So I actually have white parents.
Can
So
everybody hear? Can everybody hear? Okay, good. It's a little soft.
okay, yeah, I can speak up. So I was adopted at 5 months old. So I moved here from Miami when I was 5 months old. I have two white parents and a white brother who I love dearly. They have been very, very supportive. So race has kind of always been a part of my life just because I don't look like my family. It's kind of hard to be like a secret child when you don't look like your parents in any way, shape, or form. So growing up in Andover, a lot of the times I was the only Black kid in my class and sometimes even my grade. So there was a lot of discrimination or racial comments made to me, and a lot of times it's just kids who don't know any better or hear it at home or heard it from other friends and didn't know exactly what they were saying and who they were saying it to. Like they knew who they were saying it to, but they didn't necessarily understand what it meant to say the things that they have said. I would say it got easier throughout schooling. High school, it definitely happened a lot less, but there were still some incidents in high school. But I would say a lot of the discrimination and like racial issues that I had were in elementary and middle school for sure.
Hmm. And when did you start becoming an activist, or have you always been one? And did you dialogue with your parents about race, especially since you're different races?
Yeah, so race has definitely been a part of like my upbringing. My mom has always, both my parents have always tried to sort of like give me as much as like Black culture as they possibly could. So the dialogue at home, like we've definitely talked about a lot of it. I've always grown up with books that featured African American children. I always had dolls that were African American. My mom like hated Barbie because the features weren't African American enough. So I've always kind of grown up with knowing who I am, what my heritage is, like where I come from. But I would say I became more of an activist, like outspoken activist, after I met these ladies. I would say that for a while, especially growing up in a predominantly white town, it's very hard to feel like you have a voice when you're the only one who would be speaking out and speaking up, especially when you're growing up. It's hard to not feel like the peers around you are going to judge you or you're going to be ridiculed or bullied or any of that. And I definitely felt all that pressure. So I would say the first time of me speaking out was like right before I actually probably met these ladies, and then have become more and more outspoken since, I'd say aggressively at times.
Are your parents activists, Elizabeth?
Yeah, my mom is mama bear to the max. She has been very vocal throughout all of this. She fights hard. She's been emailing, she's been calling. She gets in there, and these ladies can definitely attest to the fact that she's a little crazy, but in the best way.
You must be incredibly proud, but all right, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to move to Mayara now. And so you were born in Rio de Janeiro and grew up in North Andover. That's a leap. You are a criminal justice major at UMass Lowell with a focus in crime and mental health, and you are Black and Latina. So from your statement of hope from your website, it reads, "We hope that all who live, work, learn, play, and worship across the Merrimack Valley will engage in dialogue and work to create solutions to make our cities and towns more equitable for Black and Brown people." Have you experienced that engagement, those solutions living in the suburbs, or did you create MVBBD because you haven't seen enough change or movement or solutions? What is your experience of race growing up in North Andover? And obviously you want to see more change. Can you speak to that purpose in you, that purpose-driven place?
Yes, so hi, I'm Mayara, and I was born in Rio de Janeiro. I lived for a little bit after I was 1 year old in Somerville. So I moved after I was 8 years old to North Andover. So quite a big change, regardless of being from Brazil. Somerville is more diverse than North Andover. So it was still quite a shock going into the schooling system in second grade and experiencing a culture shock, as one would say, back when I was, 8 years old. So there's that. And yeah, I am a criminal justice major. My big focus right now is policing and juvenile, the juvenile system and all of that. And yeah, creating Merrimack Valley Black and Brown Voices was inherently to bring everyone together. Growing up here, I never had a group like this. I feel, you know, more connected to the people who relate to us and look to us, look like us rather, with this group. And we get a lot of that from our members as well, is that they needed something like this. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about this group. It's definitely going to bring in some change, and it already has. So thank you.
It already has. And you know, when I was looking at the video of the protests and the Juneteenth event that you did, there were a lot of people of color there for Andover, and it was amazing to watch, wasn't it? I mean, was that a surprise to you?
Oh my goodness. And it's one thing that I said there as well was, this is family. Like, I've never seen it before, you know, and I've lived here for almost 13 years. So the fact that I haven't seen something like it until now is, you know, the basic fact of the reason why we have this group. So
yeah, I've lived in Andover for 25 years, and I needed us when I was a kid. So to me, it's amazing, and I know each of us feels so humbled and so warm whenever we have somebody say thank you for creating this group and thank you for like bringing this to attention. So
well, and I feel like you're bringing out suburban Black and brown people to be together, and that's going to help everything. You know, your solidarity together is going to help everybody. It really is. So I'm going to move on to Miss Bria. So you're the urban girl out of this trio, born and raised in Boston. So currently you reside in North Andover. A couple of questions. When did you move here? Many city and state governments have declared racism a public health crisis. When you were getting your master's degree in community health from Merrimack College, was discrimination part of your studies? Was race part of the curriculum? What I have garnered from your mission and vision, the whole group of you, is one of undeniable positivity, inclusiveness, and solidarity. The messages I have seen from your events is all about upliftment and hope. So along with those questions, I would like, please, for you to explain your point of view around having 2 Facebook pages.
Yes, thank you. My name is Bria. I moved to North Andover a little over a year ago after getting my master's from Merrimack College in community health. After that, I worked for the CDC a little bit and moved to North Carolina and realized that government wasn't for me. It's not the sector I want to work in. So I moved back to the Northeast where I worked for the Boston Public Health Commission. So my experience has been in government, working for government health agencies, and I definitely believe that racism is a public health issue, and I just hope Lowell will declare that. And they're doing Black and brown people and everyone living in that city a disservice by not declaring it as a public health issue, because oftentimes people don't realize that education is a public health issue. Having lack of education, having lack of access to quality fresh food is a public health issue. Having lack of access to transportation is a public health issue. And so my role in the group is to really shed light on these social determinants of health and how they impact our daily lives, particularly looking at economics and the role that finances play in an individual's life and their overall health. And yes, I'm from Boston, and moving here was a culture shock. However, I do love living here because I get to meet amazing people like these ladies and realize that there is work that needs to be done here, and I'm here for a reason, to work in partnership with everyone in the community to create solutions. And in regard to why we have 2 groups, we originally formed our private group just for Black and brown people because we wanted to provide a safe and brave space for people to connect, share resources, and have a place to vent. Oftentimes, people are the only a person of color in their workplace or in their classroom, and they don't get to express themselves the way they want to and don't feel like they can go to someone to talk about their issues. And so we really wanted to create a safe space where people can realize there are other Black and brown people who live here and you are not alone. And we decided to create our allies page because we realized there are people who support us and who want to learn. And so we wanted to provide people with an opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue. And so that's why we have 2 Facebook groups. And we hope that both memberships will continue to increase throughout the months and throughout the years.
I feel like your approach is so positive that you're incredibly polite on the allies page, and you give us space to be actively engaged but separate, and I really appreciate that. But tell me, Bria, growing up in Boston, did you experience racial, discrimination is a mild word for what you might have witnessed. Did you see racial violence growing up?
I did, definitely. I grew up in Mattapan. It's a neighborhood in Boston, notorious for crime. However, we are rich in resources and love as a community. And one thing I've witnessed are the inequities. So I could drive 10 minutes down the street and be in Jamaica Plain or Rosendale, and it'll be completely different than Mattapan. And so I think there's a lot that needs to be done in regard to equity in the city. And when I was a student at Boston Latin Academy, I did experience microaggressions while being a student, particularly when I was applying to colleges. My guidance counselors were not supportive at all. I actually had to enroll in a college prep program at Northeastern, where my mentors really encouraged me to apply for Ivy League schools and schools out of state. And so if it was not for that program, I would not have gotten into the universities that I did. And so I think the work definitely needs to start in the education system, particularly Boston Public Schools, making sure that students have all of the resources that they need and support from the staff, and making sure that staff are culturally competent and believe in our students, because our students are capable. They just need someone to believe in them and give them the resources to succeed.
Thank you. Did you all, just as an aside, did you all see any of John Lewis's funeral or any of the speakers, Obama, for example?
I saw a couple of clips from Obama's speech. I was working during the funeral, so I wasn't able to watch the whole thing.
I was hoping he'd go even more on fire, but I thought it was beautiful anyway. But
For sure.
come back to you, Elizabeth. So it's obviously not news that we live in a white area and that we live in a progressive area, a predominantly liberal part of the country. So Robin DiAngelo, who everybody knows now, the author of White Fragility, says a very interesting quote: "White progressives can be most difficult for people of color because to the degree that we think we have arrived at being anti-racist, we will put all of our energy into making sure that others see us as having arrived instead of doing the work of actually becoming anti-racist." So in other words, white progressives often make the conversations about us. How have you experienced white defensiveness as you engage in activism in the Merrimack Valley? Do you believe, as many do, that becoming anti-racist is predominantly the white person's job, their work to do? And are you seeing a genuine desire of white people for real change since all of this has erupted?
It's a lot to unload there, Paula. I definitely think that anti-racism has to start with white people, because white people are they're the oppressors, and I think that goes for any sort of white person, whether you're progressive, whether you're conservative, doesn't really matter where you fall on the spectrum. Becoming anti-racist and like changing that mentality starts with you, because it's like I can't really be racist towards somebody who's been oppressing me for my entire life and my ancestors' entire life. I would say that from what we've experienced, we definitely have people who are all for like challenging their anti-racism or challenging their racism and like working towards being more anti-racist and like allowing themselves to have those uncomfortable conversations and feeling comfortable enough to be like, hey, this is where I was wrong and this is how I'm moving forward. But on the other hand, we've also had a lot of people who want to kind of stop. Like they have their set point and where they're comfortable, and they don't want to push past that. We've had a couple run-ins with a specific person who I will not name, but she in particular wants to fight and act as if she does not have racist tendencies, which she does. And then she has this very specific wall where she's like, I am done talking about this. This is where I finish, and I'm not going to continue the conversation any further, even though there's plenty more where she would move on and move forward and have like more meaningful conversations with us and with anybody else that we've interacted with as well. So, and it's not just her, we've definitely had other people within my own life. I'm sure with Bria and Mayara within their lives and their friends and acquaintances and colleagues and whatnot. So it's not just people through activism. It's definitely all over our lives for sure.
Mm-hmm. So Mayara, I'd like to ask you about your experiences with discrimination as well. D'Angelo again writes, discrimination is action based on prejudice. These actions include ignoring, exclusion, threats, ridicule, slander, violence. Have you ever experienced any of these directly towards you or your family? Do you feel that racism is targeted more towards men of color than women of color? And do you think that young people are less racist than old people?
Very great questions. Yes, I have experienced quite a few encounters with racism growing up in North Andover. A lot of it was in the school system, and I was a dancer, so a lot of it was in my dance school. I was the only one of color in my dance school, and surprisingly, yeah, you know, even though I am a Black Latina woman, I was still the only person of color in my dance school. So it was difficult, and there is a lot of it. I think a lot of it is, you know, the kids and the adults. I wouldn't say it's, you know, one age group in particular. I think you see it, you know, in different variations from all age groups. But yeah, I've experienced racism, even microaggressive remarks from even as young as 3 years old. Children, yes. I'll share that experience. It was in my dance school. Actually, I was a CIT, and that stands for counselor in training. I worked with kids for many years before I got into my field now. So I was a counselor in training, and I was working with a little white girl. She was 3 years old at the time. And innocently, she looked up at me and asked me why I was so Black. And I was very shocked at the time because I was young at the time. I was 11 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And so it is something I have never stopped thinking about in my entire life. And it was something that I never understood until recently, why she had said that. So yeah, like Bria said, you know, it's starting with our kids, and building from there. And from what you were talking with Elizabeth, yeah, it's working in the workplace and starting with, you know, the higher ups and wanting to change. We strive to provide tips and resources on our Facebook page weekly for people to check out, and we're constantly having conversations in our private group meetings and everything with all of the racism going on in our towns. So yeah, it's definitely there.
I'd like to share just off of what you asked, Mayara, about like racial instances that have happened. So on July 6th, I was pumping gas on my way home from work, and I had somebody in a big red truck yell "F you N-word" at me. And there's no prompt to it. I was honestly pumping gas by myself. It's the only person at the gas station, and I filed a police report, and technically they couldn't do anything about it because it's not a hate crime, even though it's hate speech. So these things still do happen. This happened to me like a month ago, like literally a month ago today.
Hate speech is it can wreck you. I mean, it gets inside. It can be insidious, which
I
is
mean,
what.
basically, I'm angry enough that it just made me even madder. Didn't really, but that's just fuel to the fire and making sure that
It just makes us stronger.
Yeah,
you know?
makes me want to do this even more, regardless of what people say. It makes me want to fight even harder.
Yeah, you know.
I just want to say that all three of these women have full-time jobs outside of this .org that they are.
We do.
Just so everybody knows that. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I was gonna say even. Well, actually, I forgot.
Well, interrupt me then. All right, so I have one more question for Bria, and then we're going to look at your PowerPoint and learn all about this beautiful organization of yours, which I love the name. I love, black and brown is a beautiful word combination for me, and one I'm learning to get comfortable saying. But voices is the key for me. That it's like song, it's truth, it's liberty, it's freedom. That word, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant word. All right, so Miss Bria, here we go. Make America Great Again is a clarion cry for white privilege that has worked powerfully to divert blame away from the white elite and toward people of color. I have goosebumps and I'm stomping the floor. Have the last 4 years galvanized your commitment to ending racism? Have you participated in protests? Are you keen on police reform? And have you witnessed an escalation of your own anxiety and push for reform since 2017? And we know what happened then.
Yes, most definitely. And, I just want to start off by saying, yes, we had 4 years of hell so far, but my ancestors have suffered 400 plus years. And so if they were able to fight through, I'm able to fight through these 4 years, hopefully not another. And I would say that I wasn't an activist in high school. So going back to a question in the chat about my education and, appreciative of the experience I got at Northeastern, I wasn't woke, quote unquote, back then. And that's because no one really talked to me about it. We sort of, just conformed to what society was and accepted it for what it was. And often live by that we have to pull ourselves up by the bootstrap, because that's how I thought, we had to do in order to make it. My grandparents come from South Carolina. My great-grandparents were children of slaves, and, they ended up owning property and had to really fight their way every day to be successful and own land and own property. And so that's always the mindset that I had. And it wasn't until, I would say, definitely meeting these ladies, but last year where, just seeing how our world was changing and losing the soul of this country, and just seeing the shift really inspired me to do this work. And I have been to a few protests in Boston, but most of my protest happens within myself. And so every day I say daily affirmations and I feel joy. Because, Black girl joy is a form of resistance. People want me to be upset. People want me to be sad every day and be angry, but I do the opposite. I take care of my health and wellness because that is my form of resistance. And I appreciate those who are out there protesting every day, but my protest starts within myself, and then I transfer that good energy to other people so they can continue taking care of themselves, regardless of what's going around in the world. Because if you're not healthy within, how can you go and do good work for others? I can't remember your last question, Paula.
Let's see. Well, mostly it was about anxiety escalating since the infamous day.
Yes, I do suffer from anxiety a lot. My boyfriend is a Black male living in North Andover, and he loves to go running. And so I always get so anxious when he goes running outside. I'm just like, please call me or text me or something so I know you're fine.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a worry that I have every day, just because of what has happened in our country, and I never want to get that phone call. And so it definitely gives me really bad anxiety, more so for him as a Black male. And then me as a Black female, when I'm home alone, I double check the doors. And whenever I post something on social media and there's a person who disagrees with me, if I call them a racist or call them out on their white supremacist tendencies, I'm afraid they're gonna come knock on my door. Our address is public. People know where to find us. And so that's something I worry about every single day. However, I have to keep moving forward because my ancestors didn't stop. They weren't afraid, and neither should I be. And I'm a very spiritual person, and so I know the Lord got me, and I'm just going to continue moving forward. But I do get really bad anxiety, and I do seek therapy. So I definitely always encourage, especially Black and brown people, to have a therapist or someone who you can vent to, because it's very taboo in our community. And the only way we're going to deal with what's happening around us is to make sure that our psyche is healthy and we're able to process what is happening.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, really. And, you know, for very different reasons, I'm sure that there are many people on this call that are suffering from anxiety as well. But again, for very different reasons, because it feels like the whole freaking thing is just blown up, fallen apart. Thank God. But, you know, it's scary and there's a lot of work ahead, but your positivity is just, you know, the icing on the cake. So I'm going to turn this over to you. We want to hear all about this beautiful organization. We want to know when it started, when you met, and you're going to share some PowerPoint with us.
Yeah, here we go.
Get that up.
You know, fingers crossed. We are imperfectly perfect. All right.
All right. Hopefully everybody can see this.
Yeah, we can.
All right,
Cool.
here we go.
That's us.
Wow.
We had a photo shoot. One of my very close high school friends offered to give us free photography, and we got to take these amazing photos and had a very great time.
In Newburyport.
In Newburyport, actually, yeah.
Beautiful. They're very beautiful.
Thank you.
So I guess we can, you want to go like,
yeah.
So when and where did you meet? So we met about 2 months ago, so this is a 2-month anniversary for us.
Oh my God.
So we met on Facebook, and
Yes.
we met through a community Facebook group called the very famous North Andover Moms. And we met basically when Bria came out during the week of the killing of George Floyd, and she came out to express her feelings and her experiences here in North Andover, and basically expressing how we need to create change in our own communities. And basically, Elizabeth and I, we tagged along, we commented on that group, on the group post, and I basically shouted them out. I was like, oh, if you guys ever want to hang out sometime, you know, get to know each other, because, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I stayed to myself before this. It was really school and work for me. I kept to myself, didn't really have a lot of friends or people that I could relate to in this town. So it was really cool meeting them through that group, and this is, you know, where we are now.
Beautiful.
The point of this was never to be what we are. Like, we honestly, when we first linked together, this was like wine night. Like, that's all this was supposed to ever be, was just us three, like, hanging out, drinking wine, watching movies. That is it. And then, like, from the Facebook group, that was honestly just supposed to be a Facebook group. That was supposed to be, like, similarly to, like, the Andover Moms or North Andover Moms. Like, that's all that group was ever supposed to be. And it's blossomed into something so much bigger and so much more beautiful and so much more purposeful. So we are so thankful for that. But honestly, this was never supposed to be what this is. There we go. Our mission, the hefty.
So
hefty
we
thing.
have an official
Yes, we do have an
mission
official
statement that goes with our nonprofit organization, and Bria will read it to you guys right now.
Yeah. So our mission is to provide Black, Indigenous, and people of color across the Merrimack Valley with a safe and brave space to connect, share resources, and create systemic change to eliminate prejudice and discrimination in surrounding communities. And we care about not only residents, but people who work here, people who go to school here, people who worship here, because they are all a part of the Merrimack Valley community, regardless if they have a home address in this area. And we also care about those who don't have a home address. So really our homeless population, they are part of our community, and we need to make sure that we work to create change that is equitable for them. So that way they can, have whatever they need to improve their lives. So yeah.
And one of the reasons I think we're so unique from everyone else is that, there are a lot of Facebook groups, solidarity groups, ally groups that, include everyone in there. And it's not really a safe space as they call it, because there are people who claim to be allies but aren't fully there, as you said, Paula. So that's why we're unique from all of these groups, is because we actually do have that safe space for our people. And so that's what we're very prideful of.
And I think we're also super happy that our Merrimack Valley is a very large area. I don't know if everybody knows that. My boyfriend and I were actually talking about it yesterday. It extends from like Salisbury all the way to, I think, like Chelmsford and like that area, and then like all the way down to like North and like Reading, I think. So it's a very large area, and we're starting at home, so that's why a lot of our focus is in North Andover and Andover, because that's where we're from. But we will be expanding as far as Merrimack Valley reaches, and
keep in mind we're only at 2 months, so we've done a lot.
But we definitely want to expand as far as we can reach, and they're just off of the last 2 months that we've been in organization, like we've seen a lot that needs to be done, and we are ready to get our hands dirty and dig down deep.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Everybody should go on Sunday to your Black and Brown business fair.
So, what we have done, so we originally started as a Facebook group. As you all know, we then were approached by a lovely high school student at North Andover High who wanted to put together a protest or an event in honor of George Floyd and everybody else who has died of police brutality. And from there, we did our vigil, which was on June 8th. We had like over 800 people in attendance. We were on Fox News. We were on Boston 25. It was a rather large event. Sorry. Something
Excuse that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
But yeah, so from the vigil, we really wanted to celebrate Juneteenth, because I think it's one of the most important holidays that this country has, celebrating the emancipation of people owning other people. And it's definitely a not widely known event. So we worked very hard to get that event off the ground. I think a week and a half after we did our vigil, we like hustled to get that event off the ground, and now we're moving into our next event, which is our Black and Brown owned business market, which is on Sunday at South Church in Andover, 41 Central Street. It's from 10 to 4. We have 14 businesses that are Black and Brown owned, varying sort of like things that they're selling, marketing, networking. It'll be a great place to meet new people, to meet new businesses. We also have our directory, which has a lot more businesses on it. But yeah, that's so we've done.
I can't wait for that event, because my husband and I just took out accounts in One United, which is one of the largest Black-owned banks in the country, and they wrote a letter saying 70,000 new bankers have come to them since George Floyd's death, and that it matters. Commerce is power, and it matters.
And that's what we want to do.
So anyway.
If you want to talk about some of the projects.
Yeah. So I know I want to be mindful of those type of questions. So what we're doing and how we're giving back. So not only do we do events, but we also put together an education committee for folks across the Merrimack Valley who are passionate about education reform. And so they meet regularly to come up with strategies, whether it's helping to change the curriculum So that way, there's more Black authors and there's more discussion around anti-racism. Or, there needs to be more teachers of color and staff and leadership of color across school districts in the Merrimack Valley. We also have an economic relief campaign because, sometimes people need money in their pockets to pay bills like yesterday. And so we put together economic relief where people can submit a form anonymously if they're in need of financial assistance, and we will post their story without their name on our social media and encourage our allies to donate to their Cash App, their Venmo, or something, because there's a lot of people who are struggling, and now that the extra $600 a week has run out for unemployment, that's only gonna harm people who are already financially struggling in our area. So anything that we can do to leverage our resources to support them, we will continue to do. And we also give away a $100 Market Basket gift card to one of our NVBBB Facebook members each month. And, if we continue getting more support from people in the community, hopefully we can give out 5 gift cards a month to 5 different people.
And even more than 100.
Yes.
Because,
It's a beautiful
a lot of Market Basket.
Yes. Also, one more thing that we've been doing is I personally have been working with a high school senior from Andover named Yashvi, and she put together a group project for young kids and like middle schoolers and high schoolers with AYS to paint rocks and have conversations about racism and anti-racism. And I actually did a class with her yesterday, and it was really powerful. And these kids are like definitely willing, and they want to learn. And it's actually open to all towns surrounding. You have to go to the Andover Youth Services Center in order to participate, but it's open to any kid. So if anybody who is watching tonight has a kid in like the middle school to high school range that is interested in becoming anti-racist and having those conversations and having a safe space to talk and ask questions, that is open to them. I can definitely get you guys some more information towards that.
Awesome.
Donate.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing it would be donations for sure. Like money, unfortunately, it's how the world runs right now, and we need it in order to host a lot of what we want to host and what we want to give back to community and how we want to shape our community. It definitely needs money. And we also have a volunteer list where you can sign up to help volunteer with us. We have a lot of events in our heads that we want to put to fruition, but we need help with that for sure.
Yeah. And if you work for the town government,
yes.
or if you're a city councilor or a selectman, a teacher, we definitely want you to leverage your power to help us create change, because unfortunately in our towns, it's still very much run by who you know, and that's the way you can really create change. And unfortunately, yes, we know people, but we're always looking for other people who are in those systems to help us create change. And so if you are someone who can really use your power and your position to help open up doors for us, that would be great.
Thank you so much. So we have lots and lots of questions. So here's the contact information.
Yeah. So our email, our website, and then our link tree, which has volunteer. You can schedule a meeting with us. All of our social media pages are on there.
Take a picture.
Our donation pages are on there. It's also all on our website as well. So
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and take a picture of your.
You can stop the share screen. Then I'm going to hand this to Debbie, who's compiling. A lot of questions have come in. Hopefully, we can consolidate them, Debbie. Right?
Yep, I'm
Thank
trying
you.
here.
You're doing so well.
yeah.
First, I'd like I don't know technologically, how can we save the chat? There's a lot of really great comments that I'd love to share, and
we can put it out on an email list, because everybody's emails come through on this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to lump some together. So a couple of questions about the group. And one is, have any Black and brown men join the group? And another is how your group intersects with the NAACP.
Yes, we do have men in our group. It was funny because when we were contemplating starting a group. I was like, should it just be women of color in Merrimack Valley, or should we open it up to everyone?
And I'm glad we did.
I'm glad we did. We have some amazing men and gender non-conforming people in the group, and it's amazing. We love the diversity.
Yeah, we've already built such a family. It's awesome to go there every day and talk to everyone.
Nice.
And we just became aware of the Merrimack Valley NAACP group, and so we hope to meet with them in the future and collaborate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. And you spoke a little bit about a middle school and high school involvement.
Yes.
Can you
So
expand on that?
Yashvi is a rising senior at Andover High, and she came up with a rock painting class. It's called Unfiltered, and it's a it's led by her and like one other person from the youth services, and we kind of sit in a circle. Everybody gets a rock to paint, and we paint it with like Black Lives Matter, like slogans, positivity, and all of the rocks that are being painted are going to be put on the Avis trails in Andover, so that people walking through will be able to see, and they'll have little signs with like more resources in how to be anti-racist, more information about Black Lives Matter. So that class happens it's only happened twice so far. There's another class that's happening next Wednesday. The youth services would be the direct people to contact because they're the ones who facilitate the class. But we're hoping to make this an ongoing conversation in a class that will be happening. We also will be hosting like an adult version of this class on August 23rd in collaboration with the Stephen Coolidge Place. So that is called Art in the Open. Yeah, so we would be.
I saw that, right, with the trustees.
Yes, with the trustees. Yeah, so it's the adult version of that class where we'll be talking.
That sounds really good.
Open conversations and then doing an art project as well.
Yeah, you can still get your tickets.
Yes, there's still tickets
It'll
on
be
sale.
outdoors and in the Rose Garden.
Yeah.
It's a lovely garden.
I'm gonna do it. I'm definitely doing it.
So that information is on our website as well under events. So you can sign up and join that class. We'd love to have as many people in it as possible. So feel free to.
Do you also have an email list, which is a question too? You're on Facebook and no, your website. You sending out emails?
You can sign up on their website for their
Okay.
email.
So if you just go on our website and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can input your email and we'll.
It's worth going through their website. It's very, very lovely. Yeah.
Bria did that, so
Yeah.
thanks to Bria.
And then there are some questions about your experiences, and I think I'll try to do this to kind of work backwards chronologically. And one is, have you noticed an increase in hate speech and microaggressions in recent years, so since this current administration?
I would say yes, personally. I would say I haven't had any discriminatory or hate speech prior to what happened to me on July 6th, really outright, but I've definitely seen more hate sort of like driving by, a lot more microaggressions just in general. Like when I don't know how many people saw me speak at Juneteenth, but I kind of mentioned some of the microaggressions that have happened to me in Andover, where people will cross the street when I'm walking down the sidewalk, or pull their kids closer, or pull their bags closer. Like a lot of that has definitely been more prevalent. I don't really go downtown anymore, but it's definitely like when I do, I've noticed a lot more microaggressions, and I can't speak for them either, but I imagine they do as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of hate speech online.
Yeah.
You know, just even me sharing my experience in North Andover, and one gentleman saying, well, this is a beautiful town. There's no racism here. Our cops are wonderful. And it's just that rhetoric that only reinforces white supremacy. And so they're just people who are just not open to listening. And oftentimes that's why Black and brown people choose not to say anything at all. And oftentimes feel like their voices are silenced because they are. And so, you know, we'll continue every day raising our voices and encouraging others to do so as well, and tune out that hateful rhetoric.
Because his experience and his life and the way he views his world is not the only way that people live their lives. And I think that a lot of people really struggle with taking themselves out of their own personal lives and putting themselves into somebody else's shoes. Because what we feel is different than what you all feel. It's different from what somebody feels in Lebanon. It's different from what somebody feels in Taiwan. Like, we all can't have the same life experiences,
Yeah.
but we can all appreciate the fact that we all have different life
I
experiences.
think a lot of it's what we all know about, and it is the term townies, and a lot of it comes from people who fit under that category, and it's people who don't put themselves out there to experience what the rest of the world has to offer. So they have this townie mentality, and it's very conservative and very not wanting to change. And it's something I experienced. I graduated in 2017 from North Andover High School, and I actually went to Salem State at first. And I learned so much about myself that I didn't know growing up here. So much, I really grew up during that time. So it's, that townie mentality. People need to take themselves outside of the Merrimack.
I think part of the value, the extreme value of your organization is that it is based in Merrimack Valley.
Yeah.
And, this is the place where we feel so lily white. So drawing out Black and brown people is going to be only positive.
And so people, they don't want to, step outside of their comfort zones. And so we're making them uncomfortable. We're bringing it to them. So yeah, so that's what we're doing.
So Debbie, I want to make you aware that we're at 6:55. So can you consolidate some more
Yep,
questions?
yeah.
And we will get this information to you somehow. We'll figure it out. We saved the chat. We're recording it. So
there's one question that I just saw that I wanted to address. If we will be seeking 501(c) status, and we are going to be seeking 501(c) status. It is a process.
Yes.
So we are working on it, but we will be seeking
yes.
that. Did I just get that out there?
And I just at least 100-day wait. So yeah.
And,
It's a long process.
all donations help it,
Yes.
come to life.
Yes. All donations. Yeah.
Sorry,
So,
continue.
Bria, you spoke some about being concerned about your boyfriend, and a couple of people have asked if you could speak a little more, I mean, not just you, Bria, but all of you, about you see differences between discrimination and treatment of Black and brown men versus Black and brown women.
Yes, in different ways. And so Black women are the most disrespected and oftentimes, unsupported beings on this planet. And, Black women have shaped this country, starting from when they would nurse white babies. Black women have given so much, and yet so little has been given in return to us. Constantly, there are hundreds of Black women who go missing every day, and there's not media outrage. No one is looking for them, as opposed to a white woman. And so Black women are oftentimes over-sexualized in the media. Certain brands will target them knowing that the chemicals are toxic to their reproductive health. There's a history of eugenics and sterilization of Black women in this country. And so they have their own issues, but mainly relating to reproductive health, hypersexuality, and so forth. Black men definitely are seen as overly aggressive and oftentimes are misjudged, and people will put the blame on them. And so I definitely worry about my boyfriend every day. Just the incident that happened with Mr. Cooper at Central Park, and just watching the Central Park 5 documentary, I couldn't even finish the thing. I just couldn't take it. And the Khalif Browder story, and hearing about what he experienced in the criminal justice system. And so Black men are over criminalized and oftentimes put on probation for a ridiculous amount of time and unable to get off. And so we experience different issues, and neither one is more severe than the other. And I think we can work in tandem to address issues that affect Black women specifically and issues that affect Black men.
That's very well put. I think we have time for one more.
I want to ask, I mean, you spoke about things that we can do, but I just want to make sure as the final thing that have you listed everything you think that we as white allies and other white allies can help do to support you.
Wait, I want to say something. You go to the fair, you donate money, you go to their website,
But that's, yeah.
you tell them you're going to volunteer, you sign up for everything. Okay, now you tell us.
Yeah, I mean, Paula kind of covered it.
Okay.
Supporting us on all of our events, supporting Black businesses that are all in our directory, Black and Brown businesses, supporting other groups just like us. We're not the only ones out here doing what we do, and we could all use support because it's going to take all of us to get to where we want to be. Reading, watching videos, like kind of combating your own racism that happens in your own life. Because like Paula said, like you can be progressive as hell, but even in a progressive like area of this country, there is still a lot that happens. Like I actually had a conversation with my grandmother a few weeks ago about how there are places in New England that I will refuse to stop in because I'm fearful that I would not return home at the end of the day. So it's like being aware that that's a reality for people like us, and that there is a lot more work to do, and sort of getting yourself out there, and if somebody says something, say something back. Making sure that you're not being complicit and letting people get away with whatever they want to do or whatever they want to say, just being as active and as vocal as you possibly can.
And sometimes it's even as simple as going on our social media pages and clicking a share button when we post something. Makes all the difference.
And supporting legislation, especially legislation regarding housing. Unfortunately, in our towns, people are reluctant to add more affordable housing in the area. There aren't many home ownership programs available to people in the Merrimack Valley specifically. And so really advocating for legislation to increase housing access, food access, transportation. I mean, why isn't there a commuter rail stop in North Andover? Why does the person have to go to Andover or Lawrence? You know, so really talk to your politicians and help change legislation so it's more equitable for everyone.
For sure. I think we should put you in front of people more and more and more, because what a gift you have given us. You know, educational, loving advice.
If only we could receive this from the people who work for our towns.
Excited to meet you and to have this door open, and I can't wait to just participate more and more. So we thank you. I think we should all just give them a round of applause. You know, look at all that.
We are so appreciative that so many of you came and listened to us and are willing to work with us and fight with us and support us. And we are so thankful for all of you because we can't do this alone. We are as loud as we possibly can most of the time, but we definitely need more voices to help amplify. The more we have, the louder we get.
I also want to throw it out there that if you want to make a donation, just know you do have the option of buying a t-shirt in exchange for a donation. So
we actually have new t-shirts that just came out.
T-shirt just came out.
Yeah, the brand new one.
Oh, that's nice.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love your logo.
So Mayara created our logo. So it's our Merrimack Valley. It's what's on our Facebook page and our website, and basically everything.
You'll have these on Sunday, I assume.
Yeah, you'll have these on Sunday. If you aren't able to get one on Sunday, you can.
Oh, nice.
We'll get them to you as soon as possible as well.
So beautiful art there for Merrimack Valley.
Thank
We'll
you.
put it on our website, so stay tuned. We haven't put the t-shirt yet, but we will.
All right.
Well, if we can save the chat, there are other questions we couldn't get to. It'd be great to be able to follow up with you.
So, and would you lovely goddesses be open to us sending you some group chat questions that you might answer us as a group?
Yeah, if you wanted to email those questions, we will try to answer them in a timely
So we'll do that. And
like Paula said,
thank you everybody for being here and for your patience and for your love.
We can work on a V-neck, Laura.
We'll work on a V-neck for you. Thank you all so much. We did save the chat, so feel free to email us. We're very responsive. We do have full-time jobs, so please be patient with us and charge it to our mind, not our heart, because we care about all of you. It's just we do have other jobs, so just please be patient with us, and we will respond to your email.
Perfect. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you Sunday, and hopefully you'll have a lot of donations.
Thank you so much, Paula, and everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And to all the team, everybody, you were so fantastic. Kath and Debbie and Maria and Julie came on.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Guys.
Paula, before you go,
Yes,
I'm trying to figure, I think they said they saved the chat. I don't know how to save it.
I did save it.
Oh,
Elizabeth.
okay.
There's a little icon that says file, so anyone can save it. The hosts will see everything, even the private chats.
Got
Okay.
it. I don't think there were any, or maybe there was one question.
You wouldn't know if there were any.
Oh, true. That's true. Good point.
It was excellent.
It really was. And you know, Paula, you are such a natural at interviewing.
There she is.
Say
Anyway,
what?
wait till everybody.
Great job.
come to
Great
a bed.
job.
Oh,
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Paula.
Julie, I'm so glad you got on.
I have no idea what happened. It's the first time it's ever happened to me. I sound like
You couldn't get on and we're like, who
like a
can we
man
talk
with
to?
performance
Because
anxiety.
You're the woman.
Julie's our tech person. Who are you going to ask if she can't get on?
I know, that was just crazy.
Harriet and Fran. It's so, Fran,
Hi,
those were awesome
Catherine.
for the
Hi,
birthday.
everybody. That was awesome. I am so impressed.
Harriet.
Hey, Fran.
Hi, Maria.
Harriet.
How is it?
Deb.
Good to see you all.
Well, thank you for figuring it out.
And it was a good job, and we have follow-up now because we have a recording and we have chat and,
Yep.
Okay.
and today was a hellish day. Deb knows. She came to visit. I was like, I haven't slept. I'm having an anxiety attack.
Oh, wow.
82 people on the call.
Yeah, it was huge.
Wonderful.
Yep. And I will say that I think that was important, the crossover to Merrimack Valley Andover centric.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were at least 10 people, like Annie Gilbert that just posted at the bottom. She was a select person in Andover for a long time. A lot of people. So I noticed a lot of names. 5 people I saw in the chat they were from Andover, North Andover, but there were so many more that just didn't say it
It's
in
an
the chat.
incredibly valuable organization.
it-
Don't you have that it's suburban, Black and brown people? It's so needed.
I
Yes.
believe they just met 2 months ago.
I know.
It's not even that they just started this.
They're not even old
organization.
enough to be weaned. I mean, like, geez, 2 months.
Slapper.
They're in their 20s.
Wonderful.
So
And they
what
got it
good-
together.
Really, what a good job,
Yes.
though.
It was a good night. I thank you all.
Oh,
It couldn't have
Thank you.
happened without all of us. Thank you.
yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Good job, everybody.
Bye all.
Maria. Thank you. Yay.
Bye.